So now that we've gone through all four methods for solving these quadratic equations, I want to let you know about one more thing, and that is the, except I can't spell, that is the discriminant. Okay, this is important because say you've got something ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now before you can even solve this, or not before you can, but before you even solve this, you can actually tell something about the solutions. And this is related to our quadratic formula. So remember we had this minus 4ac over 2a. And we noticed, maybe noticed, that this b squared minus 4ac thing is actually pretty important. So we just did this example where the thingy under the square root turned out to be 0, so I only had one answer. Now, if you go up further, you'll see that the thingy under the square root, here, this was negative, right? It turned out to be negative. So what kind of answer did we get here? We got an imaginary one. This was negative, so I got an imaginary answer. Finally, if you looked up here, this one, the thingy under the square root, was actually positive, right? It was positive, it was 28. And the kind of answer I got, didn't even notice it, right? Because it was just a normal, real answer. I got a real answer. Now, not only did I get a real answer, I got two real answers, right? 3 plus root 7 over 2 and 3 minus root 7 over 2. Here, I didn't just get an imaginary answer, I got two imaginary answers. But then down here, where it was equal to 0, I only got one answer, and we didn't really say before, but it was one real answer. So we're going to talk about the discriminant right quick, but it really is nothing new. It really is nothing different than what we talked about previously. The basic rule for discriminant is this. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, in fact, I'm going to make this smaller so it looks a little bit better. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, we get, so if it's positive, we get two real solutions. If b squared minus, remember that, if b squared minus 4ac is positive, where'd you go? Positive, I get two real solutions. Now, if b squared minus 4ac is negative, so this would be greater than 0, less than 0, we get two imaginary solutions, right? And that was just like the example we did. And then finally, if b squared minus 4ac is 0, equal to 0, we get one real solution. Okay? So the idea is that you can predict what you're going to get before you even solve the problem. So you could get a couple of examples like, you know, they give you something like this, 3x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. And they'll say, characterize the solution, or they'll say, what kind of solution will you get? And in this case, what you're going to do is you're going to line it up with the quadratic formula, quadratic equation, figure out what everything's going to be. So a is 3, b is 4, c is negative 5. And then you're going to plug it in directly to b squared minus 4ac. That's the only part you have to do. So b squared minus 4 times a times c gives you 16 minus 60, right? Yeah. Plus 60. There we go. And that's 76. So 76 is positive. So that means we have 2 real solutions, right? And that's the only answer you really need for that problem. So it's actually kind of fun. These are the short problems at the end of the section that nobody ever works because they're tired and they think they're going to take forever. But you know better now. So let's try this one. Try 3x squared minus 8x plus 7 equals 0. So let's characterize that solution. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So a equals 3, b equals negative 8, and c equals 7. So b squared minus 4ac is negative 8 squared minus 4 times a times c. So that gives us 64 minus 12 times 7, which is 84, right? Yeah, 64 minus 84, and that's negative 20. And we're done. We just say, look, this is negative. So that means we're going to end up with 2 imaginary solutions. None too bad, right? So let's try one more. I bet you can guess what the answer is going to be here. We'll try one more. So let's try x squared minus 2x plus 1 is to 0. Okay? So we've got ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So a equals secret 1, b equals negative 2, and c equals 1. So b squared minus 4ac is negative 2 squared minus 4ac. So negative 2 squared is 4 minus 4, that's 0. So that's equal to 0, so 1 real solution. Now this is one of those problems that you would not want to actually solve by the quadratic formula if you had the choice. And that's because this is very, very much factorable. So we can solve this actually right quick and verify that we do in fact get exactly 1 real solution. So if we do this, we've got a plus sign here, so that means they're both the same sign. Since that's negative, that means they're both negative. And this is actually what it's going to factor out to. So we've got x minus 1 is, try this again, x minus 1 is 0, or x minus 1 is 0, but that's the same thing, so we only need to solve it once. Add 1 to both sides, and we get x equals 1, and that's the only solution. It's 1 real solution. Everything checks out. All is right with the world. And so we're extremely happy, and we draw bunny rabbits, because that's what we draw when we're happy. So I hope you had a fantastic time.